What's up, Detroit? We are back with another fun-filled Detroit sports talk program, the only show for all of your Detroit sports headlines. I'm Tommy Riles. As always, I am joined by Cody Hudson and Brendan Riley. Fellas, how we doing today?
Pretty good.
I'm doing good.
All right, last time we talked about the Tigers. Obviously, they're still struggling, so we're going to give them a break till next week. And we're going to move on to the off-season teams, so talk about the Pistons, Red Wings, and Lions. I'm not going to lie, Detroit's probably a little upset right now because of the whole fact that the Pistons or the Red Wings aren't still playing at this time. We're kind of adjusting to this period.
Yeah, just a few years ago, we'd be talking about April in the D, best time of the year. You got the Tigers, you got the Red Wings in the playoffs, you got the Pistons in the playoffs.
Yeah, how long that lasted this year? Like a week?
Couple, yeah.
Yeah, about a week and a half, I'd say.
All right, well, let's start it off with talking about the joke that is the NBA draft. Obviously, with the whole lockout season last year, the Pistons did struggle this year. But there was some upside. I mean, they finished the season strong with Brandon Knight and Greg Monroe really turning it into valuable players on this team, and I think could end up being pretty legit stars in this league once their career starts.
You saw a team that was a complete joke last year, and expected the same this year. But you know what? I love the signing of Lawrence Frank last year, and it looked good to me. You really saw some of the younger players turn around, and with a solid NBA draft, maybe a signing here or there. I don't. Maybe I sound crazy, but I think the Pistons can make the playoffs next year.
Next year, as soon as next year, you think? I think 500 season.
But in the East, the 500 season will put you in the playoffs.
Well,
we're not talking about the MLB or in the NFL, where you actually need to be good to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with Brendan. I mean, if they have a good offseason, as in the NBA draft, if they can get a solid player from the NBA draft, and I think they do need one free agent, but who's really going to want to come to Detroit right now? I mean, a couple of years ago, you would have said, who wants to come to Detroit? Everybody would raise their hand. Right now, it's kind of like, well...
Especially with all the stars going to big markets, you're not going to get a star.
Exactly.
Maybe you can get a role
It's all about a big three, and I mean... I think Detroit's doing it right now. I think they're trying to create a team because right now we have a big two with Greg Monroe and Brandon Knight. When their career gets going, I mean, they're going to end up. I still think they're going to end up being superstars in this league. And I mean, if we can get someone like a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist or a Perry Jones in this year's draft, I mean, it's so hard to do pre-draft shows for the NBA just because you have no idea where you're going to pick. I mean, I don't mind the lottery. It's not really my favorite draft.
For those of you right now who aren't sure where the Pistons would be picking, I'm sure there's many. I mean, not too many people are into the NBA draft like the NFL draft. The Pistons are looking at 9th pick, but due to the lottery, they could pick anywhere from 1st to, I believe, 12th. You know what, though? They're going to get a solid player most of that range. You get up to the top, you're looking at guys like Anthony Davis. If you win the lottery, this team, if you can keep those three, the Brandon Knight, the Anthony Davis, the Greg Monroe, this can be a very good team. If you don't win the lottery, you can still be all right.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would be ecstatic if we even got the 3rd pick because I told you I told you before the show, my number one guy who I want in this year's draft is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. We need a strong forward. I mean, I know a lot of people like Tayshaun Prince, but I'm sorry.
But he's getting up there in age. He's
getting up there in age, and he's really, I mean, he's a team leader, but I don't necessarily like what he contributes to the team. I mean, he's not putting up 20-point games or 10-assist games all the time like a lot of the leaders on these teams are doing. I mean, if you look at Boston, Rajon Rondo is the youngest player on that team, but you can also tell that he's the leader of that team because he's going out and getting triple-doubles left and right half the time. I mean, we need a guy who can do that, and I think Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, if he can come here, I think he's going to be a legit player, and if we can get him, Brandon Knight, and Greg Monroe on the same team, I think you're pretty much stacked. And same thing with Perry Jones, though. I think Perry Jones will be pretty solid.
And Perry Jones is probably a more realistic look.
Definitely.
That's where we're seeing him right now in mock drafts.
Yeah, like you were saying on about Tayshaun Prince, I feel like I was watching some of the games last season, and yeah, he's getting up there in age, but at the same time, he looks like he's playing like he's lazy playing.
Yeah.
He's along with the rest of the team from last year. Like last year, I mean, it didn't
Last
even
year
look
was
like
a
they cared.
joke.
Well, it was yeah.
But this
It
season,
looks like
you started to see
everybody
some
cared.
young players start to care, and I didn't see that on Tayshaun Prince either. It looked like to him, going out there making a paycheck. That's all he's out there to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you got to think of it like that. I mean, there are going to be free agents coming out, and even if it's just for a year or two, just to get some leadership on the team. I mean, he's gonna want to start, so that's the scary part. But you can put Greg Monroe at center. What do you guys think if Kevin Garnett comes out on the market, picking him up for a year or two?
I wouldn't even think about it. I would do it in a second.
Because I mean, they're gonna break up that big.
And Boston's got to look. But is he up for? Is his contract?
His contract is up. He's a free agent at the end of the season. Same thing with Michael Beasley.
I don't know if he's going to be interested in coming here. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him go to a team trying to win a ring.
Yeah.
But if he had any interest in Detroit, be awesome.
Yeah, because I mean,
take him in a heartbeat.
Kevin Garnett's getting up there in age, but he's also a real good leader. I mean, obviously, the whole Charlie Villanueva thing last year, I don't know if that's going to mess with things at all, because, I mean, he's not really on Detroit's best side right now with the whole comments with Charlie Villanueva being a cancer patient last year. But, I mean, there's not too much of a splash that the Pistons are going to make in free agency. So I feel like if you can get just a veteran leader to get this team back on track, because that's what they need to do. They just need someone to get them back on track.
Yeah, I think for the most part we've covered the NBA draft. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to mention? You threw in the idea of Kevin Garnett. Is there anything else you guys think we can move on to the Red Wings?
Yeah, I think it's time to move on to Hockey Town's finest. Obviously not so much this year. Well, with the Red Wings, it's the complete opposite look for the Red Wings in free agency, because unlike the Pistons, everybody wants to become a Red Wing. I mean, it's pretty much we're the Yankees of the NHL. If you're a Red Wing one time in your career, you're happy. That's basically like going to the Hall of Fame.
And it's the opposite in another way as well, as the Pistons were looking at the draft. In hockey, you're drafting kids. You're not going to see them for a while. So we're not really going to take a look at the draft. But
yeah. Well, first guy we're going to look at, obviously, I mean, this guy's pretty much already penciled into our roster. That's how much we've been talking about him, is Ryan Suter. Played in Nashville. Let's be honest, Nicholas Lidstrom is either retiring after this year, and if he doesn't retire after this year, he's gone next year. I mean, just looking at him at the end of that series against Nashville this year, he looked defeated, and I'm not convinced yet that he's not gone, period, already. And we have to find a replacement, plus of the fact that Brad Stewart is also going to be leaving. He's going to San Jose. He's pretty much already been penciled into their roster as well because he wants to go back home. But, I mean, if we can get Ryan Suter, that's a great pickup for us.
Two quick notes on that. You mentioned Lindstrom. I think that's something we're going to need to talk about a little bit, too. But since we're already on the topic of Suter, it's just a quick mention. I type Ryan Suter's name into Google, get a little information on him. First thing that comes up, Ryan Suter. Second thing, Ryan Suter, Red Wings. That tells you something when the number 2 search on Google for Ryan Suter is Ryan Suter Red Wings. I don't even need to look for it.
Yeah. We definitely need defense. I mean, like I said, our top 2 defenders with Brad Stewart and Nick Lidstrom are very questionable right now. I mean, Cronwall is already... everybody's wanting to pencil in Zetterberg as the captain once Lidstrom leaves. There's a reason why Cronwall got the A couple years ago. I'm not going to be the least surprised if Cronwall ends up getting the captain after Lidstrom leaves, just because of the fact he's been there for so long, and he's actually more of a vocal leader than Zetterberg is. And I'd be completely fine with that, because I feel like Cronwall, as much as he does in the physical department, he also can score goals. He's a great on-the-puck defender. I mean, I feel like out of everybody thought that Eriksson was going to be the next Nick Lidstrom. I feel like Cronwall is going to be closer to Lidstrom than Eriksson was.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see Cronwall take the captain's role either. But I don't think Lidstrom's leaving.
I think Lidstrom, he wants another cup before he leaves, and he's got this. He's going to be here this year, and potentially another year, possibly. But you know how he is. He's like Brett Favre, basically. After this year, I'm done.
I think it's going to come down to money, to be honest. And a lot of people don't agree with that. The question is he going to be willing to take a pay cut? And I think most Red Wings fans, they tell themselves, yeah, he'll take the pay cut. He'll take the pay cut. Will he? I mean, why didn't he last year?
See, I think he might come back for this year. I don't know. It's like I said. I mean, the main thing I was watching after the Wings lost that series. The first thing I said when I was watching the game was, "Where's Lidstrom at?" Because I wanted to see how he reacted. Usually, in the years past, I mean, if you go back in the years that they were eliminated, you watch him. He's going up saying, "Don't worry, get him next year. Get him next year. Get him next year." He was on the other side of the ice, away from everybody, just in the corner, basically crying. So, I mean, that tells me that he was defeated, and that I don't know if it might have been just the spur of the moment thing or what, but I just don't feel confident that he's going to be back, and I feel like the Wings need to approach that too, because we can't keep playing this. We have to replace Lidstrom eventually, type
Right,
thing.
and you can't rely on him, and even if you do bring him back, the team's not a Stanley Cup team. So I mean, like you mentioned, Ryan Suter. Another guy that has been floating around is Parise. You definitely want to get Zach Parise, New Jersey Devils.
Yep.
If you could get them both, that'd be awesome. For people who are concerned with age, because the team is getting up there in age, they're both 27. The truth is, if you're signing both of these guys, you're probably, looking for a cup now. You get a few years out of them, but they're not going to be a long-term solution. It puts you in the cup talk for another 3-4 years.
Yeah, Parise was a very big talk at the beginning of our off-season. Well, for us at least, because it's not even really the legit off-season yet. He kind of cooled down, though, once we started talking about Suter and wanting to sign him so bad. And the fact is, with Parise, he was actually already supposed to be being traded to Carolina during the trade deadline, and nothing ended up happening with that. And Stahl over in Carolina does need a winger to go with over.
Well, the Red Wings need to find more than one guy.
Exactly. Yeah, well, we definitely need more than one guy.
I don't know if you guys seen it. I think it was yesterday or a couple days ago I seen it. I read something. Alexander Semin from Washington.
Yep, heard that name around too.
Yeah, Alexander Semin definitely is. I think what's going to hurt us most with that is the fact that they made a long run in the playoffs this year. Because Washington is on the brink of a Stanley Cup. It's just a matter of time before Ovi gets his first cup, just because of the fact that,
one of the greatest players in the NHL.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest players in the NHL, and if you look at their lineup, it is stacked. You've got Semin, you've got Backstrom, you've got Ovechkin.
And some people don't give Semin the credit he deserves. Semin is... He's the number 2 there.
He's the Malkin to Ovechkin's Crosby. That's exactly what it is.
It's the exact same thing.
Those two complement each other just as much as Crosby and Malkin do. And I'm sorry, Detroit, I didn't mean to put Crosby into our show. That was completely against the law. Sorry. Well, but with the Wings, everybody says that the question always is at the beginning of the season, are they a Stanley Cup contender? I feel like no matter what, as long as you keep a guy like Datsuk, a guy like Zetterberg, and a guy like Lidstrom, or even somebody who can replace Lidstrom on your team, you're always, and a goaltender like Jimmy Howard, you're going to have a chance to win the Cup. Because the Red Wings, no matter what they do in the offseason, they always have depth. So you can always, every year, you bring up a guy like Abdelkader and Helm. Who would have known that those two are going to come up and be as great as they are now? Abdelkader will get into a fight whenever he needs to. Helm's probably one of the fastest guys in the NHL.
You definitely added some.
So, unlike a lot of our other Detroit teams, the Wings farm system, which is really weird, have one of the best farm systems out of everybody. They just draft really well. Pavel Datsyuk was like a 7th round pick or something.
Another guy that you forgot to mention who just came up, I believe, this year, might have had a few stops back and forth, is Emerton.
Yeah, Corey Emerton.
I like Corey Emerton a lot, but I just wanted to throw out some stats for Semin, because it is easy to forget how good Semin is. Semin's got, in 77 games played, 21 goals, 33 assists. It's not Ovechkin numbers. He got a plus minus in 9. He is a very good player. He's something that the Wings could use for a goal scorer.
The main thing with the whole Semin deal is the fact that Ovi has completely changed his game now. And I've been an Alexander Ovechkin fan his entire career now. The guy's just gifted, I feel. But I feel like this change that Ovi's made is better for the team, and it just shows that he's a team player. He's not scoring as many goals. He's not getting as many assists. They're not using him much on the penalty kill and stuff, so his ice times come real down. But he has taken that so well that's why this team made it to the second round. Last year and the year before that, when they were the number 1 seed and got ousted in the first round every year, it seemed like Ovi was basically trying to take over every single game by himself. And in basketball, you can do that because it's basically 1-on-5 half the time anyway.
You can't.
But in hockey, you have to be able to have a good puck handler who can assist, who can score goals, who can just be where he needs to be, and Ovi's also a physical player. He always levels people left and right. I feel like Semin and Ovechkin are probably going to be together. Are we going to replace Lidstrom? Who are we going to replace him with? This is your ample time to replace Lidstrom with Suter out on the block. and you might not have another chance to get a guy like Suter. I mean, he showed you what he could do in the series against us, so let's get him.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Tom. I mean, we need a replacement for Lidstrom, like he said. And Suter, he has the power. He can be our number one guy. And he can, I mean, with Datsuk, Zetterberg, Suter, and Howard at goal, I feel like there's a cup there with all of the players that we have surrounding them.
See, I think Suter long term may be the most make the most sense because, like was mentioned, we're gonna lose Lindstrom very soon. Probably gonna lose Stewart soon. You need some defense, so Suter makes sense there. But I mean, maybe it's greedy. I really, really would like to see them get Suter and then another scorer, whether it's Semin or somebody else.
Well, you got a few other guys out here. I mean, let's see here. We got.
Well, I mean, the Red Wings make a big splash in the offseason, though. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and they get two of these guys.
Yeah, which is what most people are looking for.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're never going to see that trade deadline like the Red Wings had. I mean, the main guy that we got in this year's deadline with Kyle Quincy. He had a few good games with us, but I mean, normally when you watch the Red Wings during the offseason, it's pretty much...
You expect a bigger move.
Yeah, you expect them to get almost every guy out there who they need and then to make a deep run.
And we got the cap out there to make it happen.
Exactly.
It all comes down to what does Holland want to do and what do these players want to do.
Exactly.
Because we have the money.
Yeah. I mean, I also like Dustin Penner. He's out there, and he was already having trouble with LA in the beginning of the season. But with LA's success this year, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm putting LA to probably win the cup this year, just on the fact that they've lost 2 games this entire playoffs now, and they're destroying Phoenix right now. And Jonathan Quick's playing the best goal I've ever seen.
He looks like the best goalie in the NHL right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, so that it wouldn't be surprising if Dustin Penner now decided to re-sign if they ended up winning the cup. But I mean, I've always liked Dustin Penner. He's a hard, solid player, and he gets the goal well. And I mean, another guy we have to worry about with the Wings is Thomas Holmstrom. How long is he going to stay?
Right.
Or how long?
Very soon.
How long are we even going to keep him? I mean,
some people want him gone now.
Yeah, well, people have wanted him gone. I've always been a fan of Homer. I mean, he's a hard worker, and he's always out in front of the net, but I mean,
before you go and get rid of him, you got to find a replacement. If you don't have a replacement, he's got to stay.
But you also, what you could do this year, I don't know if you guys have been looking at it, but right now, I didn't know this. We have Franzen for like 5 more years.
I think it's longer than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 5 to 7 years because we signed him when he was like a rookie to such a long deal because we thought we had something. And I mean, honestly, Franzen when he's hot, he's one of the best players in the NHL. But when he's cold, he's very, very cold. So I mean, if he comes out hot this year, and if we even see him start to fizzle down at all, I would not be shocked to see them do a move to where we get Franzen out of here and bring in a few young talent. I mean, depending on how the season's going.
It's going to be tough to trade his contract, but if you can manage it, it would be great.
Exactly, because I mean, it's great that we have all these guys under contract for so long. I mean, let's be honest. Who in their right mind would ever think that Pavel Datsuk's going anywhere besides the Red Wings? I mean, he's here for good. Zetterberg's here for good. He just signed like that 12-year deal or whatever, 10-year deal. And I mean, Cronwall's probably going to be a Red Wing for life. So we've got a core team. We just have to build around them now. And I mean, Datsuk's getting older, yes, but Datsuk's still going to be the best player in hockey in my eyes, probably for the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, because Ovechkin and Crosby are good. I mean, they're great players. Don't get me wrong, but if you want a puck handler who's going to create plays, the best player in hockey is Pavel Datsuk.
All right, well, I think we've talked about the Red Wings pretty well. What we want to see happen, what we think can and won't happen. I think we can move on to the Lions. Unless you guys got any last things to say.
Yeah, with the Lions right now, I will give their off-season a grade of like maybe a B-. Still, I really, really would have liked the Ryan Grant signing to happen. I mean, I feel like we need to make a splash somewhere, and I feel like the Ryan Grant signing would have been pretty big.
Well, from some of my reading on that, he never actually came to the practice field.
No, he didn't come to the practice field, but he did get offered the contract. It just wasn't enough money.
It seems like that was more of a threat, saying, "Hey, Packers, you want him? Take him."
Yeah, but we had a safety in a couple weeks, or
we had a few safeties in the past. Nothing's happened with them yet.
Exactly. I don't know. I feel like if we don't do at least one more thing, maybe even two, I see it's going to be pretty much the same type of year for the Lions. I feel like it's pretty much going to be one round, you're out. Maybe, and you might win a game this year in the playoffs, but if you're looking for Super Bowl to be your Jim Schwartz already said he wants this team to start thinking Super Bowl every year now. If he wants this team to start thinking Super Bowl every year, they have to make a bigger splash than they did in this offseason. Because, I mean, they as well as they did in the first round of the draft, we talked about it in previous shows. I mean, the later rounds kind of hurt. I mean...
Well, we discussed the draft a lot, both pre-draft and post-draft. One guy I want to take a look at was a guy that we were very high on when we did our post-draft. So Travis Lewis, the 7th-round linebacker out of Oklahoma. Tom read something back in our post-draft show about how Travis Lewis could be looking at taking DeAndre Levy's spot at middle linebacker as early as this year. One interesting note for the rookie minicaps, and of course you can't take a lot of the rookie minicaps.
No.
But he started at outside linebacker, and by the end of rookie minicamps, I can't say minicamps right now, but they moved him to middle linebacker. He was practicing. I don't know if that says a whole lot, but it says something to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know. Like I said, I'm basically going into the season with the Lions as you're going to get to the playoffs and hopefully win a game this year, just because you're going to have a little bit more experience in the playoffs, and that's pretty much it. I don't see this team being a Super Bowl contender yet. I mean, things can change to where if Stafford ends up coming out and having the same type of season.
What you did last year, you might have a better team this year.
Exactly.
I mean, we polished up a couple small holes in the defense so far, but nothing big. Like you're saying, no big splashes, no big names coming to us on the defensive side. I mean, we picked up cornerback Jacob Lacey out of Indianapolis.
Which people forget about. It's been a while since that happened.
Yeah. We picked up him, and then we drafted Bill Bentley, cornerback. And that's a couple cornerbacks that we have. I mean, you don't know what kind of production you're going to get from them this season, especially Bill Bentley. I mean, he's a rookie. Jacob Lacey, he looked good in Indianapolis, I thought. But you never know. I mean,
one interesting thing I thought when they signed him, I don't remember who came out and said it. It was either Mayhew or Schwartz. In their interview with him, they asked him what his best aspect of the game was. He said tackling. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, tackling is important. You tell me that 5 years ago, I'd tell you sign the guy because the Lions were terrible. They couldn't tackle anybody.
Yep.
But a cornerback needs to cover. You know what? I'm hoping they saw something in this guy. Maybe that's why they didn't go cornerback earlier in this draft. If they did, when they signed Chris Houston, nobody knew what to expect, and Chris Houston has been very good for them.
Yes.
If you can get someone even close to what Chris Houston does on the other side of the ball, you really have helped this defense a lot.
Yeah, and especially because, I mean, now you got Chris Houston, Jacob Lacey, Bill Bentley, Alfonso Smith, and Aaron Berry all rotating in and out at cornerback. I mean, Aaron Berry's not the greatest cornerback.
You have a lot of mediocre depth.
You'll have fresh legs out there constantly. You'll have a lot of mediocre depth.
I do like his comment about tackling, though, because, I mean, you said 5 years ago. I'm remembering 2 years ago. It was that Thanksgiving game, the play that I remember the most out of that game. Brady throws the ball deep to Deion Branch. I forget who it was out there, but so one of our secondary players.
Amari Spivey.
Yeah, it was Spivey.
Yes, there it is. Yes.
Deion Branch catches the ball at the 20-yard line. Spivey goes by him once, misses the tackle. Comes back into play, goes to wrap him up again, falls off him again, gets back up, and at the 5-yard line finally drags him down into the end zone.
Going into that game, Spivey actually made a comment about how he didn't think the Patriots were that good or something. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, and then he was being
he gave up 3 touchdowns that game.
Yeah, and then he was being dragged around.
Since then, actually, I believe that may have been Spivey's last game at cornerback.
Yeah.
He got moved to safety.
Yeah. I
don't have a problem with the comment of tackling, and some people like it. I really don't have a problem with it. It's just my number one thing in a corner is the coverage.
All right. I'm going to change things up here a little bit. I mean, we're on football, so I'm going to veer away a little bit from the whole NFL, though. and go to video games. Me and Brendan were driving over here the other day, and we all know that Megatron's on the cover of EA Sports Madden 13 this year. I think if anybody's going to break the curse, it's going to be Megatron. But we were noticing the release date for that game is August 28th this year. Yeah. That is a week before the season starts.
Yeah, and I don't understand that at all. It makes no sense on their part, especially when you consider, and this is what I was telling Tom. Who plays Madden? Kids, right?
Yeah.
And when are those kids going to play Madden? In the summer, right? No.
When they have the time in the
Right.
summer, exactly.
When it was coming out in July, it was a mainstream video game. That's why they were getting such good ratings. But, I mean, now I feel like they're taking off with this whole contract they have with 2K Sports to where they can dominate the NFL, basically, and only make the only game. They're taking so much advantage of all of us. I mean, the first year that we actually have a lion on the game, we're not even going to be able to enjoy it until basically the end of preseason and the week before the game or season starts. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like getting my team together and start playing with the team.
A lot of times, I finished my first season by the time the NFL first season starts.
Exactly. Right. That was just a little bloop that I found very curious. When I saw that coming at Target, I told Brendan about it, and he didn't believe me.
I really didn't believe him. I was like, no, you're wrong.
But
no, there's no way. August 28th?
They up it every single year, too. Like, last year, I think it was, like, the third week in August.
A few years later, we'll be having the game come out, it's October.
October 15th.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Not a major deal, but something worth noting.
Yeah, definitely. It's
funny. But I don't think Calvin is going to get hit by the curse. I mean, everybody's like, the curse is never broken. Drew Brees, a few years back, he was on the cover.
He had a horrible season. He only threw for like 5,200 yards last year or something like that. Broke an NFL record.
I'll pull up the history of
the joke
for people who don't believe it.
Well, here's what you got to think. Michael Vick, the year he was on it, tore his ACL.
Well, I'll go straight from the start. So just give me a quick minute on that.
Okay.
I know that what people are playing on it for Drew Brees is that his team didn't make the playoffs.
Yes.
That's true. I mean, but you can't really call that as the curse. I mean, if that's the case, Ford Field was on this cover too with Megatron. Does that mean Ford Field's going to crumble down while the Lions are in it?
I'm not saying that part is right.
Was the Metrodome on the cover of Madden last year?
I don't think so, but
yes, I got every Madden cover as soon as we started putting players on. 2000, Detroit running back Barry Sanders.
Oh, he was horrible. Well,
you know what he did?
He retired.
He retired before the season started. Out of nowhere. 2001, Titans running back Eddie George. He had a great season. What it's saying here, he fumbled at a clutch point in the playoffs. Don't really know if you can call that a curse.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we'll give that one that's not a curse.
Those happen all the time.
2002, Dante Culpepper. Struggled all season, knee surgery after 11 games.
All right, so we'll count that as a curse.
We'll count that.
St. Louis running back Marshall Faulk, hampered by ankle injury all season and failed to match his production from the previous seasons. Never rushed for 1,000 yards again.
Sure, you can call it a curse, I guess.
So
but how old was Marshall Faulk at that time? Wasn't he like the last 3 years?
He was getting old, but I mean, you're still looking at a player. Whether or not he was old, he didn't do anything afterwards. Michael Vick broke his leg.
Preseason.
Yep. Missed 11 games that season.
That one can be the curse. That one I do.
Baltimore linebacker Ray Lewis. Broken wrist caused him to miss one game during the season, and it was his first year without an interception.
That's
that's
not.
That ruins everything.
He's a linebacker who rarely ever has an interception. I mean, he has a few every year, but come on.
All right, so then right now we're looking at what? We're looking at two that weren't Eddie George and
you're at
Ray
2
Lewis.
to 3 right now.
Yeah.
Two that were not cursed and 3.
Well, now you're gonna look and see a lot of them. 2006 Philadelphia Eagles Donovan McNabb missed 7 games this season. 2007 Seattle Seahawks running back Sean Alexander
career ended.
Career ending. Well, he played a few seasons after.
No,
but
I'm saying his career ended though.
He did nothing.
2008.
This website says Titans running back, but he's really quarterback Vince Young.
Titans running back.
That one you can't really call a curse though, because what did Vince Young honestly do in his entire career? He had one season where he was like 10-0
actually this season he won 10 games.
True.
But after that, he did nothing.
Exactly. But that was the rookie year where
Brett Favre, on again, off again, on again, off again. He's on the cover as a Packer. He plays for the Jets. So I can see where you're... See, here's the thing. The argument isn't necessarily that the player will play bad. The argument is that something bad happens.
Right.
So I can give you Brett Favre. I can give you Vince Young. I can give you Sean Alexander. The only people so far who I would say that I can understand not being the curse is Ray Lewis, obviously.
Well,
Marshall Falk, and Eddie Jordan.
There was one a few years ago. I mean, if you want to call Madden just the curse, what about EA Sports in general? There was the one year where NHL put, I forget what his name was, but it was the guy from Ottawa. He died in a car accident like the week after he got in, or on the cover. Then the next year, I think they had, who was it?
In NHL?
Yeah, there were tons of injuries in the NHL because they were even starting the NHL curse. So maybe it's just an EA Sports thing.
Well, they're actually
I don't
saying the
know.
NHL one is the opposite. They're saying the last three players in the NHL cover have had some of their best seasons of their entire career.
I guess.
The last few years. But then the last couple, safety in 2010, Troy Polamalu only played 5 games this year.
Who's 2009?
2009 was Brett Favre.
Oh,
on again,
okay,
off again,
that's
on
right.
again, off again. In Arizona, Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald had 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. Nothing
That's horrible.
bad. Saints quarterback, Drew Brees. Very, very good season. They didn't make the playoffs, though. And then this one, Peyton Hillis. We all know how he did.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything.
He was solid. I think he had, 100 yards rushing this year?
Did he have 10 carries? 20 carries?
He averaged 1.5 carries a game.
He didn't do anything.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up this show. For Brendan Riley and Cody Hudson, I am Tommy Riles. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next week.